Hey everyone, welcome to Comedicine. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boston, and we have a really fun episode today on this most Monday ever Wednesday, even though I know it may not be Wednesday that you're listening to this episode, but we recorded on a Wednesday. But our guest, Lacey Pitcher, felt this Wednesday feels quite Monday-like. We still had a great talk. We talked about creativity. We talked about curiosity. Lacey Pitcher is a registered veterinary nurse in England. She is also, a little secretly, a blogger and a stand-up comedian. But when she does stand-up comedy and her blog about disasters in dating, she does not use her real name. She uses an alias. She also does a ton with the veterinary profession. She's just a ray of sunshine, and we need that right now, you guys. So I hope you love meeting Lacey Pitcher as much as I do. Please enjoy our chat. Welcome, Lacey Pitcher, to Comedicine. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I remember when the message came through, I thought, this is exciting. I can talk about something that's not like testicles or vet meds.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
I mean, testicles is a crossover subject. So it's like, whatever. We can still talk about testicles, but yes, no, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you. It's great to have another veterinary nurse. And I say veterinary nurse because you are not in North America. And so you're a registered veterinary nurse. I actually wish, I know it's controversial in North America, but I think a nurse is a much more appropriate term for what we call veterinary technicians here do, because it's nursing. You go to school to become a veterinary nurse, and it's the nursing care that we kind of associate with what human nurses do. That's what what we say veterinary technicians do. So I love that in the UK, I think everywhere else,
Yeah.
possibly in the world. I don't know, correct me, you would know better than me.
We've been having some conversations recently about, we're trying to protect our title here because it's not yet protected.
Okay.
Which has been brilliant, actually, because conversations have sprung up worldwide about how we kind of regulate and what titles people have. And so, yeah, Australia and New Zealand are kind of having conversations as well. And we're all kind of learning bits from each other about the way we've done it, what went well, what didn't go well, what we wish we'd done, what name we wish we had. It's exciting.
Yeah. Do you like the term veterinary nurse? Like, do you feel that is appropriate for what you do?
I do. I think because we have such a broad remit of what we can do and kind of the progression that we can have, I think veterinary nurse lends itself more to diverse careers. So whether that be nursing in the community, in theatres, whether that be clinical or non-clinical, I think, yeah, veterinary nurse kind of lends itself better to the broader opportunities.
Yeah, I like that. Because I mean, here, I'm probably going to be corrected, but I think the issue in North America was human nurses didn't want that term used, even though it says veterinary in front of it. Like, I don't think it's confusing.
No.
When you say veterinary nurse, I don't think anyone thinks you're a nurse, but that was sort of, and it is, I was thinking about it before I was talking to you. It's strange to me because nurse is a verb also, which is what our veterinary technicians do. They nurse our patients, right? And so anyway, I'm glad that the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, everywhere except for Canada and the States has a term that I think also for the public, like I think the public understands that better when you're giving your pet to a veterinary nurse. I mean, I guess people have learned that, but when we say, and sometimes we're even worse, we say tech. And I think it does a disservice to what our veterinary technicians do and the education they have and the role they have in our hospitals. So anyway, kudos to you. Well, it's a great segue because we will get to the testicles now and maybe later, because I like to start out Comedicine talking about kind of the day job and your job in veterinary medicine. So jump in wherever you want. Like I'm also curious about your education. So just kind of jump in wherever you feel it's appropriate as far as like, where'd you go to school and what's your career been so far as a veterinary nurse?
So I grew up in Wales, which confuses lots of the world. So the UK is 4 countries, not just England, and we don't all live in London. And it's like a small valley area. It's very rural, and we've all got quite an interesting accent. I feel like in the UK, we talk about places being so far away in this tiny little country where you can go 10 minutes down the road and someone's got a completely different accent. And we kind of forget that there's a little bit of magic in that. And I grew up in an area that basically your options were you go and work in the school, the hospital, or the factory. And that was your aspiration you could choose. And I said, well, no, I want to go and work as a veterinary nurse. And they said, no, People like us don't do things like that.
Wow.
And I am a stubborn person. I was as a child. I'm worse as an adult. And I said, well, I'm going to. So I walked into a vet practice, having walked out of college, and said, I want to be a veterinary nurse. And they said, there's lovely. And I said, yeah, but I want to be a veterinary nurse. I want a job. And they said, no. And I said, yes. And they said, oh, go on then. So I got a job as a kennel assistant and I worked my way up. There's different types of training you can do here.
Yeah.
One of them is more kind of vocational. One of them's more academic and you go to university route. But I trained while I worked.
Okay.
And then, like all things I do, I'm not very risk averse. So I stuck a pin in a map and I moved to, have you ever seen the film The Holiday?
Yes, I love that film.
I feel it's like a Christmas ritual for me now.
Wow.
So I moved 10 minutes away from where that's filmed.
Perfect idea.
By literally putting a pin in a map, calling a vet practice and saying, I want to work there. And they said, well, there's a workbench shortage, so come on in. So I did, just moved. And then I've kind of ricocheted around the country using my veterinary nursing passport to kind of open doors and work in different remits, mainly clinical, with some kind of pivots. But I've had quite a broad career, kind of led by curiosity. I'm in the camp of why not, rather than, well, we can't do it. We've never done it that way.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite.
Why not? It's great, isn't it?
It's very helpful. Yeah. It definitely leads to a lot of progress when people say that, or that's how we've always done it. So that's why we do it like that. Yeah. That's helpful too.
Yeah.
Leads to a lot of innovation, I find. Yeah. We are actually, as a profession, we're not very good. I will say a lot of veterinarians don't like change and they don't like new, they don't like technology. So I'm feeling like a kindred spirit because I'm a bit of a unicorn too. I'm like, oh no, we should use AI. We should do telemedicine, like all these things that can make our lives a little bit easier. We should be doing those things. So when you become a registered veterinary nurse in the UK, so if you're doing more the vocational route, which we have that here too, do you have exams that you have to pass or?
Yeah, okay. Loads of exams, a horrifically long portfolio, examples of doing everything practically.
Okay.
Spoken exams, practical exams, written exams.
Okay.
Loads of paperwork, basically.
Okay. So it's like I guess whichever route you choose, it's a bit of a journey to get through. Were you mostly doing small animal or did you do mixed?
Curiosity took me to large animal. I think I did one cow cesarean at 3 a.m. in the rain in the middle of a field. And I was like, I've ticked that box.
Yeah.
I've been curious. I know it's not for me. I want to go back to cats and dogs inside, please.
Yeah, it is rough. I would say, especially in that part of the world, a lot of rain.
Like holding the bits inside a cow in the middle of the night. I'm not made, power to the people that do.
Yeah.
I had such an appreciation for them for the rest of my career, but no.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. My husband, he does large animals. So he did a lot of cow C-sections in Alberta in the middle of the night. And it was wild. It was back when they used to breed really big bulls to smaller cows. And then they realized that they should stop doing that. So he would do 4 C-sections a night. It was absolute madness. And everyone's like, oh, do you ever go out with him? No, thank you. I stay in bed.
Yeah. Someone was like, it must be magical. And when that split moment where you feel like you're telling someone Santa's not real.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's true.
It's not for me. It's not for me. But small animal, and I'm an ICU, out of hours, emergency repair kind of gal. That's my jam.
Because you've done, I know part of your career is taking you to what we call locum nursing. So tell me about that. What do you like about that?
I love it. I properly love it. So I enjoy a challenge, and I'm not always sure it's a good thing or a bad thing, but there is nothing better than turning up a practice who are almost a little bit dubious that someone's coming into their work family. Will you be nice, and are you capable, and are you competent? And just really being like, watch me. I find it really satisfying. And I think the assumption was made in my early career. There were kind of utterings of, well, locums are those people that can't work with other people. They've gone as lone rangers because they don't fit in teams. And I really like people. And I saw it as, oh my goodness, I can work all across the country and collect all these extra friends. And I can learn all this extra stuff from all of these different people working in different ways. And so I'd turn up at a practice and they'd kind of have option B, like A in mind of, oh, who's this?
Yeah.
And I usually turn up with like a ridiculous canine sidekick and they'd be like, who is this woman in her like hot pink scrubs that's super excited about vet med? Where did she come from? And then by the time I leave, they're like, yes, I did this today. And I work nights. So I'll start my shift and there'll be a student that comes to tell me, like a student nurse that comes to tell me about they've placed their first catheter today and they're really excited and they want someone to share with the same level of enthusiasm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then they'll go home to mum and dad will be like, cool. Whereas I'm like, yes, you did it. Amazing. And like, it keeps me present and current in celebrating the small stuff just as much as the big wins, because I think we get not complacent. I think we just forget how important those kind of bricks in the wall of your career are. So locuming makes me kind of remember, because I see all of those points of different careers. Like I'll go back to a practice a year later, because I don't even do like long stints. I do a couple of nights and then disappear for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to a practice and there'll be someone that's passed their exams, or I'll go to a conference and there'll be a vet that I met 2 years previous on EMS, which is like our extramural studies when they're, training to be vets. And now they're out as new grads. And they're like, oh, do you remember that time you talked me through a CPR? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Oh, how are you doing? So I love it, because it just, the assumption that we're lone rangers, I think, is completely rubbish, because actually I think we've got brilliant communities.
I love that. I actually never thought of that with locums. I always thought that, especially I think younger generations and millennials, they've kind of caught on to locuming of just having a bit of control of your schedule. And that's what I see in North America. I guess more the veterinary side. I'm not as familiar with the nursing side, but just that generation, they liked, I don't know, my generation missed that. We're like, we can have control of our schedule. Like,
yeah.
What?
Oh my goodness.
No one told us, but the millennials are like, yeah, no, I don't want to work that much. And I want to have so I mean, I think it's awesome. I never have thought of locums as lone rangers. I've sort of always thought of them as really smart. And I think I did some locum work. I think you miss out on some things, like you miss out on being part of something, or you can't really give your opinion, because you shouldn't.
Yeah, people are like, who are you?
Yeah, no one really wants your opinion. But on the other hand, you can kind of just sail through. And like, I've locumed at universities where I can tell like different people hate each other. And I'm just kind of like, that's very interesting. But it doesn't affect me, because I'm not in it. But I think I'm like, wow, that would really affect me if I worked here. Like, but you can just kind of be like this outsider. And actually I worked at another university short term, and everyone was telling me all their problems, because I was like this like neutral. Yeah, they wanted me to I was like, I can't fix this.
Yeah, it's literally, I have a friend who also locums, and she compared it to Cluedo. And I said, you're gonna have to elaborate.
Yeah.
And she said, well, like at handovers, it'll be like Dr. Smith did it in the consult room with the stethoscope. And I'm like, so hang on a minute, you're all just like having your own soap opera. And she was like, yeah, but they tell you.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
You're like a neutral person that someone feels has a point of reference, but won't do anything with the information.
It's true. Yeah. I had a situation. I won't say where, but it was a whole situation. And I was getting all the different perspectives. And I was like, yeah, you're all wrong, actually.
Yeah.
You want to know? You're wrong because of this, and you're wrong because of this. So figure it out, people. Yeah, that was my conclusion, is that everyone was at fault.
Yeah,
which is usually the case. All right. Well, I love your sunny outlook. As far as, and we'll get into kind of some of the stuff you're doing now, but as far as like clinical veterinary nursing, you kind of said what you like the most, but what do you think is the biggest challenge right now for veterinary nursing?
It's not going to be a popular view. Like, we have loads of problems, and there's loads of problems here. I'm sure there's loads of problems there. There's probably lots of the similar problems. Lots of them are communication based. We've had a wild ranges of redundancies here, coming out of COVID, and different ways of consulting and workplace shortages and all of the things. And I think One of the problems we have is we always pin everything being fixed on one thing. And I find that problematic. It's always someone else needs to take some action. So here we're trying to protect the title veterinary nurse. Currently, anyone can call themselves a veterinary nurse.
Oh.
Even though we're on a register, we're, held to account, we're regulated by the Royal College, but our title isn't protected. So anyone can use it. And so everyone is hanging all of their hope on protecting the title. But to protect the title, we have to go through Parliament. We need to change the Veterinary Surgeons Act. That's a lot. And there's quite a lot happening in the world at the moment. So to get time in Parliament is quite hard, which I understand. I feel like some of those things are, far more important.
Yeah.
However, there's loads of things that we can be doing already that we just don't do. So we can already say, if someone refers to someone as a veterinary nurse, we can already say, oh, actually, should we use their title? That would be really small, but have impact. And I think we always, we're quite often looking for the person whose fault something is without necessarily taking any action. I've just come back from a conference. It was wonderful. It was really energizing. The theme was progression, which I thought was brilliant this year. And there's lots of people being like, well, there's no opportunities. Have you asked for them?
Okay.
Have you asked? Like, what have you done? And so I find it fascinating. I think one of the problems is we're always looking for someone else to fix it, which is sad, but it's also, none of us have very much energy, and time is a commodity that none of us really have enough of either. And I think if we could use it better, how much more refreshing would that be?
Yeah. Oh, no, I love your outlook. I think that's great. Because I agree. I think in veterinary medicine too, I'm trying to figure out why. Because on Comedicine, I have run into quite a lot of happy veterinary professionals. We're going to dig into this, because I would say in general, there's not a lot of happiness out there. There's a lot of negativity, but it seems like the people I find, is it the comedy? I don't know. I'm just speculating, but is it having a creative outlook? Is it having that curiosity? I don't really know, but you seem very happy in your profession, and it's refreshing, because I think there is a lot of negative. There's tons of negative. I mean, on the other hand, we get to help animals and help people and use our skills to do good things. And that's all great. Okay. So are you still clinical nursing? So
I am stopping. So
okay.
I was approached to take a job last summer. I was approached by kind of our leading veterinary publication, and I'd done some kind of panel discussions and things with them before, but same company, but we've got three. We've got the VN Times, the Vet Times, and then the Veterinary Business Journal.
Okay.
So our lead publication is Vet Times, goes out weekly to all of the UK and Europe. And the editor just sent a message and said, I got something, an idea I want to discuss. And I thought, oh, great, I'll add it to my to-do list. And then I don't think I replied straight away. And he said, so are you going to give me your email so I can give you this idea? And I was like, yeah. Thinking it was just going to be like a chat, or we were doing something at a conference, or they wanted a hand with something. So I replied, and he just said, so my idea is you come and work for us as editor. And I said, absolutely not.
Amazing.
And then I did what all good veterinary professionals do. And I called a friend and said, this is ridiculous. And my friend said, that's amazing. And I said, but I'm dyslexic. I've never worked in publishing. I'm a bit of a grenade. I don't write always what people want to hear. And I've never done anything in marketing or journalism And he said, well, you might as well give it a go. You could learn something new. So I thought, oh, well, I'll see. So I took the job.
Okay.
And now I'm an editor, which is wild, absolutely wild. But there were two things I said very, very clearly from the off. And the first was that I work for the company, but I serve the profession. And I feel that sometimes sitting on the outside of things, looking in, you can do more to help change and shape things moving forward. And I was adamant for my own benefit that I still wanted to nurse.
Yeah.
So I work Monday to Friday, in theory, as an editor.
Yeah.
And then I still locum alongside.
Okay.
And I'm very transparent with everywhere I work. at my other role, so they don't feel kind of hoodwinked into booking me. But there's so much shortage, they book me anyway.
Yeah.
And I love it. I properly love it. It's a good balance. And I still get to enjoy being part of veterinary teams. And I still kind of, I think it's important for me to still have kind of a touch point to stay very much involved with the profession and remember my why.
Yeah. And I think, and knowing what's current and what's going on, I totally agree. I see that, like, I guess less with this type of a role, but I got to make myself unpopular, but some of the corporate structure of like people in corporate, and they're not on the ground, and they keep having more and more managers and VPs and whatever, like it's a stack of bureaucracy or whatever, and they're all talking about like, whatever they're talking about, and there's so much low-hanging fruit, but they can't see it because they're not there. They're not in the clinic, and I do find it like sometimes I'm like, you're going to talk to me about my stress in the clinic? Like you are, like you work at home, you whatever, like it's like you don't remember even, or you don't know. And like, during the pandemic and everything, all the stress we were going through, like having people talk to us who weren't informed about what was happening in the hospitals, I think that is really challenging. So I think it's great that you're keeping a hand in it.
I just didn't want to be the person that turns up to a veterinary practice and says, I know how you feel.
Right.
I can't.
It's like,
can't.
No, you don't.
No.
I love that. Okay, well, let's pivot a little into kind of your creative side, which maybe is a bit why you're in this role. Like you said, you didn't have a publishing background, but you kind of had I would say, a curiosity or a creativity background.
Yeah, so I already write, and I have a few different platforms and kind of vehicles for doing that. And a few people had approached me to write other things for them, which is wonderful, and it's incredibly flattering, and I often declined. And the reason I declined it is because I didn't have the heart to tell them I write when I'm angry. On one instance, we were seeing at the beginning of the pandemic, I was working in hospitals, and I was seeing all of my colleagues burn out one by one. And I was going in as a locum, seeing what was happening. And then all I was seeing was puppy. And it was heartbreaking to take calls regularly of people who had acquired a puppy from often unknown sources, and the impact that was having on breaking my friends. And so I wrote about it. So it came from a place of anger. And I'm a person that feels things very deeply, very intensely, very quickly, and then it's gone. So it was almost cathartic. I am a believer in I like to build bigger tables, not bigger walls. And I thought, we're all really frustrated with each other. These new pet parents are really frustrated they can't get an appointment. In their mind, they might have got this dog because they're home, so it's the best time to socialize. They're home and they're having a really rough time. They're home and their children are struggling and they want something else to concentrate on. And the world's on fire, and this is their piece of joy that they've sought out. And on the side of that, I'm seeing people that can't go home to their families because they're in clinic vaccinating puppies. And I thought, well, we need to bring more people to the table to understand why people are frustrated, because otherwise we're all just getting more and more angry, more and more upset, and it doesn't change anything. So I wrote about that, and that went fairly wild. I wrote about protecting the title. That went fairly wild. I covered some mental health topics. They are always kind of interesting to cover because I don't want to pretend there's not a problem.
Yeah.
But also it's doing it in a responsible and respectful way that's not just clickbait and kind of signposts and safeguards people, rather than just seeing we've got a mental health crisis, and so these things were picked up. And I went to work with a wonderful team at Vets Day Go Diversify during lockdown and was paid to write, and I could write about whatever I wanted to write about. And I said, but I can't really write on command. It's when I feel something or I find something amusing. And they said, that's fine. Write when you're happy, write what you feel like, write. And because all of the pressure or structure was taken away, I could create quite freely. I wrote a blog comparing job interviews to Tinder and dating and like leaving jobs as breakups. There's one vet school here that provide scrub tops for all of their students. And when those students go out into practice, they are so enamored with their vet school, which I love. I love that for them, that they wear this scrub top everywhere. And I compared it to the breakup where you wear your boyfriend's clothes for the next 4 years. And there were just loads of these kind of interesting topics with an edge of humor. And they were just really supportive. They just let me be. I adopted a nana during lockdown. So we documented adopting a nana. I thought it was going to be really helpful. I live in a really cute little area now. It's a very small community. And I thought, right, I'm a young, fairly healthy person. Older people are at risk. That's what the news is saying. So it must be true. Old people are at risk. I will adopt a nana and I will go to the shop and I will keep her company and I will keep her safe. No. Trying to keep old people inside and out of the supermarket was like herding squirrels. And I would go and try and see her to how are you? Is everything okay? Because I was on my own. So it wasn't, I wasn't risking.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, oh, I got you some biscuits. Where did you get them? From the middle aisle of the supermarket. Great. And a crochet book. I could teach you to crochet. And we kind of documented my new nana through lockdown. And it just gave people just a bit of something that wasn't hard.
Yeah.
Just nice and easy to digest. So my kind of creativity got to flex in ways that just felt authentic. But Vets Stay Diversified do a really good job of reminding everyone that there are people behind the profession, very real people. We're not just the vet, the nurse, and kind of encouraging people to share what they are more than that. So it gave me kind of a release for everything. And I've been able to create in a different way to lots of, my really academic peers who are wonderful, but we're just different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like I love hearing about that. I'm curious, and going back on the puppy story, because it's something I thought a lot about. What was your kind of thesis, or in that vlog about all the puppies, people getting all the puppies during the pandemic? What were you trying to share primarily?
I was if people were going to do it, they were going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I just wanted people to remember all of the things that we would pre-pandemic would have advised, which is don't buy your puppy delivered off the equivalent of Amazon.
Right.
Like, if you can't see the parents, why not? Like, we found other ways of completely innovating how we did things. If we can do a consult for a sick animal via Zoom, why can't you see the parent of your puppy? And it wasn't even seeing the sheer number of puppies that was breaking people here. It was seeing the sheer number that was so sick. So we were already stressed. We were already fatigued in lots of different ways. We were already stretched. We had less consults because everything took longer, and we were outside consulting, and we didn't have clients in buildings here for a really long time. But we were seeing so many puppies turn up sick, quite severe parvovirus, horrendously underage, really underweight, lots of bizarre crossbreeds that I've never seen before and I never wish to see again. Lots with shunts, and turning up with eyes unable to open due to infection. And they just kept coming. So on top of being fatigued, it was compared in some respects to moral injury, because what choice do you have? You can't not treat them.
Yeah.
And we were having to break bad news repeatedly to people who were presenting their bundle of joy. And we'd have to be like, well, no. There's only so many times you have the energy to have the conversation of, are you reporting this?
Reporting
breeders that are.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And lots of animals were imported illegally into the country because we've got borders that you can drive across from France and the rest of Europe. So I currently have a dog who was only meant to be with me on foster for a week because she was sedated, put in the back of a wardrobe and driven from Hungary.
Oh my God.
The request for puppies here was so high that people just make thousands.
Yeah.
And puppy prices here quadrupled.
I would say the same thing happened here. And I was, I did some stand-up about this too. Like it takes 63 days to make a puppy. It takes a bit longer to make a veterinary nurse or a veterinarian, right? So we just had this, suddenly it was just like everyone was breeding puppies and making more puppies and making thousands of dollars. But yeah, there was definitely a moral cost to that. And the next stage I saw, which is probably about 2 years ago now, is just like, and I'm not sure if it was the same in the UK or not, but just all these doodles ending up in humane societies, like 2 years later, and people were like, and I was looking for a dog at the time because I lost my dog during the pandemic. So I was looking for a dog at the time, and I was so infuriated. We call it Kijiji here. I don't know if it's the same, but it's like,
oh, I love that.
Yeah, well, they were like on Kijiji going, my work schedule changed, and I was like, oh, you mean you went back to work? Like, you mean, the stores are open, or, you can do whatever you did. And now you've got this 2-year-old dog who's not socialized because most of them didn't get a lot of socialization. Yeah. And now you're just going to dump it at a shelter. Like, it was to me, that was equally heartbreaking, because I was like, how do you, like, the people on Instagram with their puppies, and like they got their puppy and their puppy got them through the pandemic. And then they were just like, well, I'm done. Yeah. Like, I'm going back to work now. So goodbye. Yeah. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I just thought, how do you do that? Like, I guess I just don't understand that. It was really, I found that really painful as like sort of the aftermath of all of those puppies and people realizing they don't want a puppy. And then no one wanted them because everyone who wanted a puppy had a puppy, right? So
yeah. They're some of the trickiest dogs to home.
Yes,
because they need so much. I don't have time to take a dog to a groomer every 6 weeks.
Oh yeah,
in the nicest possible way. And I'm a devoted and dedicated. Like, I don't have the finances and the time to take a dog to the groomer every 6 weeks. No. So I've never had a cocker Whatsit. Whatever.
Yeah, and I never will. I agree.
No poodle things for me.
No, their haircuts are more expensive than mine. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Okay, so transitioning into, because I know you're creative, you're a writer, but you're also starting to do stand-up. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey into comedy, I guess, just generally?
Yeah. So a career in vet med has afforded me a really awful love life, which I figured I might as well capitalize on. Like, in the nicest possible way. And I was starting some public speaking, and I was getting loads and loads of speaker requests. But I'm quite a kind of bubbly, confident person. But the thought of standing in front of, because I'm not the cardboard cutout formal that I think the profession have been used to for quite a long time, I was terrified. And I thought, oh my goodness. And because I'm not formal, not likely to turn up in a suit, my options were either I fake it and I become that, or I learn to be comfortable authentically. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I feel like this, and I am in a place of privilege in lots of the roles I've had, and having, so many friends across the profession, how many people have been sat on the subs bench for so long thinking, that's on their like nursing or veterinary bucket list. They want to, tick off speaking at this particular event, and they've never done it because they felt it's not their place. So I thought, how can I learn to be more confident? I can go and get heckled.
Yeah.
That will do it. If I can get heckled at a stand-up, then what is a really juicy panel at a big conference? I'll do that. And it made absolute sense to me. And I speak under an alias because I'm always terrified that someone will film it and put my name to it when I'm talking about, I don't know, vet med.
Oh, so when you are a comedian, you speak under okay. We don't. You can choose to say or not say. We won't.
So I speak under an alias, and I write under an alias as well.
Really?
So I have documented. It has a new title now, but I've documented all of the awful dates I've been on.
Oh, so is this like this is like a blog or someone could find, but not under your name? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been really nice to have stuff outside of veterinary medicine, because I love it, but it can only consume so much, and you kind of forget who you are sometimes.
I agree.
It can become everything. It's your identity, not a part of what you do. But stand-up's been great. And you meet all of these people that are wildly intelligent, lots of them. And you remember that there are more intelligent people in the world than vets and nurses, because we're so insular.
Yeah. No, I have loved. The other night I was doing a show and I met 2 MMA fighters. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
And one of them is famous.
One
of them's famous. He's like, I'm famous. I was a UFC fighter. And I was like, I have no idea who you are, but that's really cool. And I was like,
you're snuggling, Coco.
I would never meet a UFC fighter well, maybe they'd be my client, I guess, but I would never I don't know. I was just like, I love doing comedy because like you just meet these
So random.
you would never, ever, ever get a chance to meet. So, okay. So I am super curious about this. I need to know more about this. Obviously I don't even know your name. We're not going to out your name, but why have you made this decision to like, be like, okay, this is me writing about catastrophic dating. This is me doing comedy and I am using it to be a better speaker, but no one's going to find out like that. So what's up with that?
I think across the profession, and as soon as you start doing things and people start recognizing your name, and Lacey, I think there's only 3 on the register here in the whole of the UK.
Yeah.
So it's not the most subtle. And, I'll turn up in today I was dopamine dressing. So I've got leopard print dungarees and like ruffled sleeves, and it just makes me happy. So I was like, I'll do that. I had a really sleepless night with a very sick cat. So I was like, dopamine dressing. And I thought, you know what? Comedy could be the same for me. Like, it could be something that I enjoy. I don't need anyone to come and support. I could just actually and I wanted to start something I was not good at.
Yeah.
I think there's so much joy to be had in starting things because most of us have been good in school. We've been good at our jobs. We've mentored. And actually, there's so much joy in being rubbish at something to start with. I really enjoyed it. And it was nice to be nervous and it was nice to be excited. And it was nice to not know what I was going to say next. And it made me realize that lecturing, I could prepare everything, or my style is a lot more wing it even when I'm lecturing, which gives the tech man absolute, like, yeah, bless him. I turned up this weekend and he said, oh, last minute Lacey. Because for the last 3 years, I think I've turned up to tech with my presentation 30 minutes before delivering it. And they're like, but they know now that I will turn up every time.
You'll be there.
And I will always deliver and there will always be people there to listen. And if there's not, I'll be sat having a coffee, so it doesn't matter. But stand-up gave me the opportunity to practice something, to hone a craft and to celebrate the small stuff. I think so often we get caught up in, veterinary politics or, the big cases and the thing that didn't go right. And comedy is just so quick. It's just so quick. And once you've done the night, you don't come home. I don't come home and go, oh, I could have done this better, or I could have done this. I'm like, oh my gosh, that one landed. But also that person that I saw was brilliant. And you celebrate each other differently. And it's brought me a sense of joy, like absolute joy, like that feeling when you come home and your cheeks hurt. And I realized that so many of us miss that. We get so caught up in the serious that we forget that we can have. But I did it under an alias. I often like to be like a Susan or a Karen, something really like me.
Oh, so it's like a different name every time?
Yeah, different one every time.
You're kidding.
No, which I love. I love it.
You're just random.
Yeah, just whatever comes there and then. Because they're open mics, they're just like, you usually get like one of the first or second slots because they can't track who you are to be able to be like, oh, she might be good. So it's usually like tumbleweed when I start.
Yeah.
But I like using an audience like hyped up for the next person. And I like them coming. You can see when someone's coming on knowing they've got a really nice warmed up audience. And they just, they walk a bit better and they're a bit more confident. And I enjoy that. I don't think for me it's ever going to be my career, but I love it. I properly love it.
That's fantastic. Well, and I think that's one thing with our guests on Comedicine. Like some people, it's their career. That's what they're doing. Other people are like, I'm just doing open mics because I like it. And that's it. And it doesn't have to be anymore, which I think for a lot of healthcare professionals, we're like, well, what about, where's this going? I've had a lot of people ask me, surgeons mostly, like, what's your plan? Where are you going with this? I'm like, I don't have a plan. Like I had a plan before, like I'm a surgeon. I did all the planning.
Yeah.
I have no plan now. Like I just like this thing and I'm just trying to figure it out. And, I just like doing it. That's the plan. Like, I mean, so I love that. Did you do any training? Like what did you just start going to open mics, or did you like take a class, or how did you kind of get yourself into it at first?
It was one of those things where I'll sometimes say something without risk assessing the audience or what I was saying. And it's not always in the best setting. And so someone said, oh, you should probably do this. And after a few people had said it, I kind of thought, well, I've always said, well, that's not really me. But actually, well, there must be something. And I want to get better. And I'm turning down speaking stuff. And so I went along to a few open mic nights to watch. And there were one or two. And I just, when someone says something and you almost find yourself like mentally riffing, being like, yeah, but I'd have and this. And I kind of found myself sat there, almost sat on my hands, trying not to reply, not to say anything. And I just thought, how amazing would it be? So I came home and I wrote some bits down and I emailed the open mic night I'd been at. And I said, well, do you do? And they said, well, we generally rather people have got some experience. We don't want you to go out completely like tumbleweed it and then either hate comedy or also leave everything flat for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to see people not do well. Like there's quite a camaraderie, and actually having now felt it is pretty special. They said, come along, we do an improv group.
Cool. Yeah.
They said, come to improv group. And I said, oh, I'm not sure. And they said, look, improv is very different and we will all joke about how improv isn't comedy, but I think it'll be really good for you to feel comfortable around people just being silly. And it was great. It was so good. So I think I went to a few improv classes and then they were like, oh yeah, you can have a slot. And after I'd done one or two, I could then speak to other people. So I've done a few cities around the country and it's usually if they've got no one. So I will normally be like the start of to make up the numbers, and I go and I have a whale of a time and they've got my mobile. So I'll sometimes get a call if there's a slot, but I'm very much a wing it. I go and have fun and then come away. I would say for anyone that wants to try, I think going to some open nights and going improv made a massive difference for me. And there are certainly there are courses here, and I can see absolute merit in the courses and how to structure a set and how to build a joke and find your style.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
I'd certainly did one or two where I'd seen someone that performed brilliantly and I thought, I want that. They were incredible. And then I tried not to mimic them, but I always tried to take elements of what they do. And it didn't work for me. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't my style. And so I think courses are really good for finding your flavor of comedy.
Yeah. It's funny when someone writes a joke for you too. Like I've had people give me tags or, oh, you should do this. And it's like, sometimes you can, but sometimes I'm like, well, I would never say that. So like, yes, that's funny. Like there's nothing, it is funny, but I wouldn't say that. So it's almost, I don't know. I've had that happen. I had a friend who suddenly couldn't do a lecture at a conference. And then he was like, can you do it? I'll give you my slides. And I had to write my own lecture. I just was like, I can't just I don't talk like that. I don't do the lecture like that. I don't do the jokes like that. So yeah, it's funny. It is interesting. There's sort of that crossover of kind of finding how you do things. So now you said you kind of wing it. Do you know what you're going to do like ahead of time? Are you writing it out?
So I'll have particular themes that I can speak like on. Dating or vet med often kind of come into it. Dating's a really easy one, especially as I spot lots of women in the audience because they're bound to have, like there's some of them that have bound to have been on a dating app. Why on dating apps do most men pose with a fish? Like no woman has ever gone, oh, trout, just what I want in my life. Like they just don't. But you can guarantee when I'm at one of those kind of open mic nights, if I can see young women in the audience, there's going to be some that have gone through the travesty of sifting through trout, carp, bream. Like I could name all of the different fish now. No, it's not for me. But I know that they're going to connect with that. And then there's lots of guys that you see when you're looking out and they're like, I've got a picture with a fish. And you're like, oh, does that not? I thought you showed dedication, that I had patience. And no.
It's such a weird thing. So I have been with my husband for 28 years. So no apps for me.
Oh my goodness.
So I just hear about them. Wild. But I know about the fish thing just from hearing about the fish. And then I'm in Canada and like, why is that a thing? It's universal.
I don't understand.
I don't think any women like that unless they fish, but that's not that common, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's got to the point where on one of the apps, you can record like a voice note.
Yeah.
So I've recorded mine with elevator music, going through all of the things that they regularly say they're looking for.
What are they looking for? Someone who's fun, someone who likes to laugh.
Yeah, doesn't take themselves too seriously. What does that mean?
It means you're not a bitch. That means I want someone who's not a bitch.
Yeah. So I think there's a picture of me in front of El Capitan with like Nemo.
Nice.
I like to take it as far as I can. But dating usually goes down quite well just because I think the shared trauma of dating for lots of people works nicely.
Yeah.
But I'll have like a loose idea, but then it'll depend if there have been other people speaking. If I'm lucky to have been bumped up the list a bit, kind of I can usually take things from what they've said or what's happening in the world at the time. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I think that's hard, actually. I think that's harder than having a set ready to go. I kind of get like, I don't know, I'm just nerdy about everything in my life. So I usually know like, and I don't like showing up and not knowing how many minutes I'm going to do. I'm like, I don't like that. I like to know, like, am I doing 8? Am I doing 10? Am I doing 15? Am I doing 20? I like to know that. Like, yeah, I need to get better at that. So that's where I need to grow, is like riffing or just kind of being like, oh, okay. And just, this set that I haven't looked at for 3 months, I'll just pull that out of whatever. But
I love that.
Really? Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Everyone has.
I wish I could be more prepared. Like, it's one of those things. I've got some friends that are like really methodical, really prepared. They've usually got an itinerary for everything we do. I asked a friend recently if she wanted to go on holiday, and she said, can I ask some questions? I was like, yeah, sure. She was like, who's booking it? And I said, well, I'll book it if you want. And she was like, okay. Who's organizing it? And I was like, well, I can do that. And she said, no, absolutely not. And I said, why not? She said, Lacey, what was your last holiday? And I said, well, I booked a flight. I went to San Francisco. She said, yeah, that's the problem. She was like, any hotels? I was like, no, because then you can move around where you want to go. And she was like, no, that's not a holiday. That's like a mission.
Survival.
No. She was like, with a backpack? And I was like, yeah, we could. And she was like, absolutely not. No. She said, we can go on holiday, but only if I can book, I can choose, and we go to a resort. And I said, maybe we'll just go for dinner.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, that's good, though. It's good that you didn't end up, you're still friends,
Oh, still friends.
Still friends. Yeah. She obviously good friends because she knows you really well. Okay, so you do a little bit about vet med, but people think you're Susan or Karen. They don't know you're Lacey. Do you think comedy can help us in veterinary medicine? Are you ever bringing it into veterinary medicine? I know, I guess kind of in your writing, but are you bringing any comedy into what you're doing, or?
Yeah, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. It's the little things. It's the really small things. And I think finding joy in really stressful situations makes life easier. It's more palpable. It's just nicer. I did an out of hours shift over Valentine's Day, and the day team came in there were many patients and I probably shouldn't have billed them for doing it, but each of them came in to their own little like Valentine's Day poem on their board. And it just for the day just brought them joy.
Yeah.
And it pertained to their conditions, and one of them had an enema, so they weren't really suitable for everyone else. But it just brought them joy. And, if we've got cats in kennels that like to escape, just a little sign that says no base jumping allowed, I think just makes people grin for a minute of the day that we're often rushing around dealing with all the serious stuff. And that doesn't mean that I'm not really serious about my job. Like, I work in ICUs and out of hours. We have to be really serious. But with that, especially in those high intensity situations, comes so much extra stress. And I think, you know what? If I can stop someone in their tracks and they smile for a couple of seconds in a day, that's just as important as my clinical work. Because that might be the only time. And if they're having a rough time, they might go home and there's no one there. Or, they might be questioning whether vet med's for them, and they've remembered that camaraderie that we have is really special. They might just feel a bit lost. Or it might just be a Tuesday and they're tired. But actually, I think we stopped finding joy in things because we've had a really rough time in the sector and society. And I think finding joy in things, it's like a little bit of magic in your day. So I try and weave it in.
Yeah, I love that.
Subtly, but like glitter, you never quite get rid of it, do you?
Yeah. No, I'm always careful with that too, because people think I'm just going to come in and be like waka waka, or my clients, like they've Googled me because I don't keep it separate. I tried for a little bit and then I was like, I can't. So it's just, everything's mooshed together. It's just my whole thing. So that's why I was pretty fascinated about that. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's not like I think everything's a joke because I'm a surgeon. So like, I'm really serious about that stuff. But then like, we are dealing with dogs and cats. And so inevitably they do something that's silly or funny because that's just what happens, or the way they communicate with us or whatever's going on. And I mean, I'm very careful not to like totally say I make fun of clients because I think that make them feel bad, but they do funny things too, right? Like whether...
Tick or nip is my favorite game through COVID. Tick or nip.
Nice.
We got sent so many photos because we were consulting digitally. So what's this? I don't know. I don't know, Dave. What is it? the amount of clients that coming out of hours for, they've found a tick and they're really stressed. And they've been trying to remove their poor cat's nipples.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Please don't do it. Please don't let them. I'd love to say it's been a one-off, but I've definitely spoken to multiple men in my career where I've had to eventually say to them, do you have nipples? And they've been like, oh.
Yes. Ted Morris, who's been on this program, he's a veterinarian and he's a stand-up. He has a hilarious bit about that where he's yelling at them like, you have nipples. Because they'll say, but it's a boy dog. And he's like, you're a man. Yeah. And he's like, do I need to show you my nipples? Like, it's hilarious. But yeah, so yeah, tick or nip is good.
I'm going to go and have a look at it.
Yeah, I can send it to you. I don't know, other fun. I found during telemedicine, like people would try to send me pictures during the pandemic. It'd just be this fuzzy, like, it's just fur. There's no reference. Like, I don't even know what part of the dog it is and nothing's in focus. And they're like, what do you think?
I think you shouldn't trade jobs and become a photographer. Like, what? Like that?
They think that they're like, because on my telemedicine platform, I had like upload pictures, and I and then some people would be incredible. There'd be like a quarter for reference or like a ruler and like all these different angles, and I was like, oh, I know everything that's going on. And then the next client, just this fuzzy, brown nebulous picture that's the whole frame is full of fuzz.
Yeah.
And I think that's hilarious. Like, I don't think I'm making fun of the client. It's just so, to me, that is funny. It's a little frustrating because I'm like, I can't really help you because I don't know where the tumor is on your dog's body.
Is it an abscess? Is it a butthole? Like,
who can tell? No one knows. All right. Well, you kind of answered one of we're kind of getting to the end. And in case anyone can hear it, there's a septic tank here. So it's well-timed. Everyone, I'm getting my septic tank pumped, and I was really worried it was going to ruin this podcast, but it hasn't ruined our podcast. I think you answered this, but if you could do stand-up comedy or some form of comedy or creative work full-time and give up veterinary medicine, but you'd make the same amount of money or even more money, so it wouldn't affect your lifestyle, wouldn't really affect anything, would you do that, or would you keep kind of trying to do both things?
I'm an ADHDer, so whatever's shiny at the time is what I'm interested in.
Okay.
I am still, and I still think it's sad, but I'm really fortunate that I still love veterinary medicine. And it's sad that we even have to think it's fortunate.
Yeah.
But I'm like 15, 16 years in now, and I still really love it. And I love speaking to students who are excited about their career. And I just think if we keep more people that are enthused and there are less dementors, then it's just a bit nicer for everybody coming up through. So I like still having kind of a career of like veterinary tapas where I can like lots of different bits of everything that I can enjoy. And it keeps me happy and enthused about having all the different bits because I can swap between different shiny things. But I do think comedy has had a huge part to play in that because it gives me perspective that I don't think I'd have had.
Yeah, I love that. I'm the same because, like, I mean, again, financially, could I do it? No, I couldn't.
No,
but
no.
people are like, are you retiring now? I'm like, I couldn't, even if I wanted to, if I'm really honest, although you can do whatever you want, but I still really love veterinary medicine. I just don't love it, only it forever. Like, I love other things. I love this podcast. I love doing my stand-up. I love writing. I love hanging out with my dog. I like being lazy sometimes, I like having naps. So I want to, if you do veterinary medicine like all the time, it's hard to have naps. Let's be honest. So
I think we should campaign to bring that in. We need a little nap room.
Yeah. We need more naps. Mm-hmm. Actually, back in the day, at the very beginning of like my career, emergency hospitals, there was a room you would go sleep because it wasn't that busy.
This is amazing.
It was a thing. There would be a bed, but now it's like, forget that. They're not even going to pee. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So they don't need a bed. Now you're kind of secret. So I don't know if there's anything you want to promote or anything. Like, there's no way to come see you because we don't even know your stage name.
No.
Okay.
No. Someone somewhere is going to finally turn up at one of my gigs and be like, I recognize it from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it's all going to be out.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm having so much fun.
Okay.
I'm having so much fun. But if anyone's listening, they're on the fence about trying, go to improv. Although improv does split the comedy like cohorts.
I know. I wish it didn't though, because they're so
but it's so funny.
Yeah, but
and
it's ridiculous because I think I've done improv classes. You are better at stand-up if you do improv. You're better at speaking. You're better as a coworker. You're better at lots of things. I always talk about this with improv because I love improv. And I think doing stand-up writing helps your improv, so I think they're very similar. It's this divide is very silly.
Yeah. Yeah. And support your small hubs, support your local, like people that are, just turning up to have fun, support your local art center, support so that those arts can still come through, because so much funding has been taken from them, especially in recent years. And that might be someone else's outlet. So I can't advertise anything for me, but I can kind of put a plea out that people, even if it's just once a year, go to your local art centre, seek out your local small, I think here it's like a $5 ticket. It's less than a pumpkin spice latte.
I actually was in Manchester last month.
Love Manchester.
I love Manchester. And I was at the Frog and Bucket. Do you know that?
Yes.
I was in their competition. I won my night.
Yes.
It was most exciting, but it was a Monday night. The place was packed. Like, I was like, what is happening? Like, yeah, the UK in comedy, there's something going on there, because it was packed on a Monday night, on an amateur night. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I loved it. So I'm coming back. I will come back. I will come back and see you. Maybe we can go to an open mic together. You can be Susan. I will be Sarah.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Okay, I have one where I so appreciate all your time. I have absolutely, I was introduced sort of to you by people at the Vets Day Go, and they said, I would love you. And I do. I am so glad I got to meet you. Okay, but our last question, it's a question I ask all of our guests, trying really hard, failing, but like you, I don't like no. Yeah. So I'm trying to get Dr. Ken Jeong to come as a guest on Comedicine. So now you're not talking to me, you're not talking to anyone listening, you're just speaking directly to Ken. I feel like your positivity is going to push us over the edge. So please, can you invite Ken Jeong to come on the podcast?
Ken Jeong, you need to come, because there is a lady here in ruffled shoulders and leopard print dungarees that thinks you should. And I think that is a good enough reason for anything. You should.
That's the best reason.
Why would you not?
Yeah, that's the best reason I've heard. All right, we will end it there. Lacey Pitcher, I loved meeting you. Thank you so much for being a guest on Comedicine.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for bringing me a little joy on a Wednesday that feels very much like a Monday.
It does, everyone. Thank you. And that wraps up another episode of Comedicine. Thank you so much for listening. It is great having you here. If you have been listening to Comedicine from the beginning, thank you. If you're new to Comedicine, thank you, and welcome to our Comedicine community. It is wonderful to have you here. I want to just give a shout out to Mark Edwards, who wrote the music for Comedicine. He's a comedian, an actor, a musician. He's going to be famous, you guys. And then you'll be like, is that the same Mark Edwards? And I'll be like, yeah, He's my friend, you guys. I know him. And he wrote the song. He's amazing. Also, big shout out to Dustin Bays. Thank you for editing the show and producing it. I appreciate you because I don't know how to do that stuff and I don't want to learn. Yes, it's willful ignorance, I think, at this point, but I'm so glad Dustin is here with me, helping me out with the show. And thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it, do all the things, review it. If you're a sponsor or a potential sponsor, call me. That would be great. If you don't like the show, I don't know why you're still here.